Hello, I'm Linda Ann Smith, and I'm a member of Creative Arts Collaboration, a group of artists bringing you monthly hashtag events. Our hashtag event for October is Think Pink Art. I'm going to show you how I painted this drawing that I did while I was on vacation. To make a similar artwork, you'll need these supplies: mixed media or watercolor paper, permanent ink artist pens, twinkling H2Os in the Think Pink set, an embossing pen, and Princess Gold embossing powder. You'll need to activate your twinkling H2Os at least 5 minutes before you start to use them. I'm laying in a Dreams Bloom color on each little rosette shape. I chose a liner brush for this because I thought it would give me more control, but actually I end up later changing to another brush. Even if your brushes, watercolor brushes, are very big, if they have a nice point on the end, you can get a lot of fine line. I'm using a size 4 Royal and Langnickel brush here, and though it's a little bit large for this painting, I can still get a lot of detail by using the point of the brush. I believe I bought these brushes at Michael's, and they were very economical for watercolor brushes, and they just feel good in your hand. Plus, the finish on them is rather elegant, kind of a shiny, silvery gunmetal color. You may detect a little difference of color in some of the rosettes that I'm painting in. I dipped in the wrong color a couple of times, but that's okay because I intended to layer 3 different colors from the Think Pink set from Color Art of Twinkling H2Os. As I mentioned earlier, I did the drawing while I was on vacation. And this vacation, I decided to travel light. So the only thing I took with me were the Strathmore mixed media book that I had, and a couple of sketching pencils and some artist pens. And I think I'm going to travel like that in the future because usually I weigh myself down with art supplies. I used to be very self-conscious about working in public on my art. I really didn't like people looking over my shoulder, but I've gotten used to it now, and I meet a lot of interesting people by pulling out my sketchbook and starting to draw in public. One huge advantage is that I don't waste time reading magazines that I really am not interested in. So tucking away a few art supplies to take everywhere I go really helps me pass the time in a very pleasant and productive way. I have all the base color pink in now, and this time I'm going back and laying in the other 2 colors that I wanted to add deliberately, not by accident. So it gives the little rosettes a little more depth, and I started by just dotting the centers and decided I didn't want it to look that way, so I went back and spread it out a little bit more later so that it would blend into the other color. I'm using again colors from the Think Pink set from Color Art, and the colors I'm using now to add the depth are Love You Pink and Hopeful Honeysuckle. Now that I'm happy with the color of the rosettes, I'm ready to move on to the vine color and fill in the leaves. I was going to use Good News, but Good News is a little too bright, so I need to cut the intensity of the color with the color opposite on the color wheel, and straight across from green is red. Now I realize that Courageous is not a true red, but it has a lot of red in it, so it's going to do the job for me. Many times people are afraid to mix colors opposite on the color wheel because they're afraid they're going to get mud, but this is a good way to control intensity of a bright color. I will use more of the Good News than I do of the Courageous in the mixture. Here's what I came up with after mixing the 2 colors. I'll go over here to the Good News color and show you the difference. See the difference between intensity? I just noticed on camera that the pink flowers look like they've all faded out, but actually that's the reflection of this shimmery paint. If you look down towards the bottom area, you can see what the rosettes really look like. And when you twist the page, it changes colors. I'm painting in only the vine leaves now, and keeping a point on my brush. My brush is actually a little bit big for this process, but I didn't have one smaller that seemed to work very well. So I'm being careful and keeping that point on it, and it's working out. It's doing work. It's doing the work. I don't know what's wrong with my tongue lately. The substrates make a difference in colors in almost every media that you use. Same thing for Twinks or Twinkling H2Os. This is the Strathmore mixed media book that I'm working out of, and if I had been working out of a watercolor book with watercolor paper, these colors would probably be even brighter. But I'm happy with them this way, and this is what I took on vacation with me to do my sketching in, so this is what I have. The color I'm working with from the Think Pink set now is called Lucky Apple, and I really like the contrast of this against the color that I mixed for the other leaves. So these little leaflets, I'm painting all of these in the same color. Sometimes our brushes get a little blunt on the end when we're loading with paint. If your brush is a good brush with a good point, it can be easily restored by pulling towards you and rolling the point at the same time. Another thing to watch out for when you load your brush is if the ferrule, that's the metal part of the brush above the bristles, if your ferrule has droplets of water on it, then or paint, it can run down and destroy your picture, so be sure that you check that. Best thing to do is to keep the ferrule out of any kind of paint or water and just use the tip of your brush. I'm just about finished with the watercolor painting, but I'll go back and take a look and see if there's any areas where I want another layer of watercolor to deepen the color, or just little areas that I skipped, and so I just do my final little touch-up now. Once I'm satisfied that everything looks okay, I'm going to let this paint dry thoroughly before I start the next step. I went through the entire embossing process only to learn that my camera disc was corrupted, and I can't show you how I did it. Well, maybe that's not true. It's already done on this, but I've always encouraged my students, if there was a mistake, to try to make it work to their advantage. Sometimes it makes it more creative when you have to fix a mistake. So here's what I'm doing. I'm outlining the outside edges of the gold line that I've already put around it so that I can show you how I did it. And the wider golden edge is going to improve the looks of my ribbon. This is a clear embossing pen, so when you trace around the outside edge, it's going to look invisible. You won't think anything's there. But don't worry, when you sprinkle the embossing powder on, you'll begin to see the outline. And here I have some of the outline already done, and I'm sprinkling on the powder. You do this over a sheet of paper or over something that you can catch all of this dust in, because you'll want to pour the dust back into the little jar, and you'll find that a small jar of embossing powder can last you for a very long time. Turn your paper up and tap it against the table to remove the excess powder. I keep calling it dust, but it's embossing powder. And there's a little stuck to my page, and I'm just going to wipe it off with my hand. You could use a brush, might be better. Now I'm using my embossing heat gun to heat up the powder around the edges. I haven't tried it, but I've been told that a hairdryer just doesn't get hot enough to really do the magic here. And you can see the magic as this brownish color powder just turns into gold with the Midas touch. And here's the proof that mistakes in art can really be our best friends, even for the art teacher. I feel like this wider band, or the second layer that I added, the second gold layer, really improved the looks of the ribbon. As always, a thumbs up on this video would really be appreciated. Please subscribe to my channel for future art tutorials. To view other artists who are participating in this event, go to your YouTube search bar and type in hashtag ThinkPinkArt. I appreciate your watching. Thank you, and return soon.